You might be wondering, what is the cost of hate? What is the cost of racism? Well, here it is right here. Sweet Baby Inc. South of Midnight flops so hard. Check it out. We'll go over here. This is a game, by the way, that was showed off at the Xbox Developer Direct Conference, whatever the hell they were so proud of. Look at this. This is 700 people are playing this right now. There's a 1,400, around 1,400 peak in the last 24 hours. That means like the highest they've ever had on this is around 1,400 people. That's it. The game just launched a few days ago. That's it. Like Concord had worse numbers. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong on that one. But really, look at this. This is something the Xbox was very, very proud of. As I showed you, they wanted everybody and their brother to get involved in this. However, what ended up happening is a slew of racism started coming out of this place. What do you know? Sweet Baby Inc. is involved, and there's some hate toward people who look like me. How about that? South of Midnight community manager, this is Katie Robinson. And she had this to say that white male gamers were a mistake. That's right. Apparently, white male gamers were a mistake. And of course, this person goes on to have some pretty stellar memes here, some real hard hitting memes. Crackers be gone here. And boo hoo cracker, I don't care. So, very, very helpful to the effort of selling the South of Midnight game, as you know. I'm sorry, I sound so unenthused by all of this. It's just so hard to get angry about any of this anymore because it's so repetitive. It's sort of like being in that elevator that only has like 3 seconds of one song and it just keeps playing that over and over and over again. The do 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 do. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what this is. It's over and over and over again, the same drum. These people are wrong because they don't look like these other people, so they're evil, blah, blah, blah. It's just so tired now. It's so tired. Well, we have Bandar Hub that came out and decided to do a dissection of the main character here. And here's the problem. It fits into the usual DEI categories. We like to thank Bandar Hub for breaking this down. Feel free to follow Bandar Hub over at HUBBANDAR. That's Hub Bandar over on Xbox, over on X.com, not the Xbox. I'm sure he's on there somewhere, but that's not where you're going to find this. So it says this character's been defeminized and has like an androgynous appearance. And of course, as we've seen pointed out with the various man jaws that have come out of the Western gaming industry over the past 10 years, this is very true. Hold it. It looks like 73% of you watching this aren't subscribed. Time to click that button. You know where to find it. Character is covered in unnecessary piercings, and these are always a symbol of rebellion. These are always a symbol of the destruction of beauty. That's what this is. And when you start poking all this stuff through, and I'm sorry, if that's what you like, that's great, fine and dandy. I can't stop you. I don't have an intention of stopping you. These are merely what these symbols are most commonly associated with. You do not see someone covered in these kinds of piercings who are looking to be a person that goes along to get along, that they enjoy the status quo, that they certainly don't have something to tell you about an aggrieved group of people in this area or somewhere in the world. You know what I mean? This is usually the adornment of someone that wants to tell you why you're wrong and why they're right. So, and again, he points out the masculine jawline here. Of course, you've got that very square end, and of course, a very square end to the jaw. And so, much like we saw with Abby's physique from Last of Us 2, we have a masculine physique here. Like, again, if you simply just swap the facial features out, how is that not Snoop Dogg? Like, Snoop was never like big built guy. He was always like a little string bean fella. His sweatshirts weighed more than he did, you know? Still does, you know? So again, you have that muscular physique. Her coat deliberately hides her backside during gameplay. Now, again, people want to talk about, oh, why? Why do you want to have sexuality in all your games? I have to ask you, right? If you're creating a character you want to sell, you probably want to make them visually appealing, unless the character's goal is to disgust the people playing them. Or rather, it is a character that is an amorphous, non-human creature, an inhuman physique, if you will, like the Blob. You remember the Blob? Like that character. Like Minnie Mouse. Like these kinds of characters that are not human. You've gone out of your way to make a very realistic looking person to represent them with all these real world visual connotations. But when it came to representing them in a physique that women themselves approve of, I mean, just go scroll through Instagram, go scroll through TikTok. You tell me how much women like butts, huh? Huh? Yeah. So when it comes down to this, that's a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. Look at Marvel Rivals. I don't think there's a backside that's covered in that whole game. If it's spandex or I think it's Squirrel Girl has the ripped jeans, you know? That's it. And of course, here we have the ripped jeans again. Another Bandar draws the conclusion that this is so ripped because of the rebellious streak in this character. It's not enough that working around inside of the bayou has caused her to rip her pants in various places, and she's just not able to have them replaced at this time. It is that this is a deliberate fashion choice to wear 60% of a pair of jeans. I don't understand it. I never have, but there it is. That is a deliberate rebellious act to go around wearing 60% of a pair of jeans. Sorry, hate to break it to you. So, again, broad masculine shoulders. The narrow point on her is the same width as her shoulders, so that's not how that works. And the deliberate placement of the coat sleeves are to resemble a phallus. And there it is. Ever wonder why that has a red tip on it? Yeah, so there you go. It's a big old floppity dongle there, one of those connector dongles, if you will, on her sleeve. And it looks like a wing wang. Wing wangly wobbling. And of course, Bandar Hub provides us with an example of how this actually should look on a character that has this kind of adventurous, sort of go-getter, I'm not going to take no orders from anybody attitude. And here's Tifa. And Tifa's narrow waist point is visible, exuding her feminine features. And again, taste is taste, but when we're trying to create a game that's maximum player appeal, we probably ought to create a game that has maximum player appeal instead of fooling around with that concept because it's fun to subvert audience expectations. I mean, look at this gravesite that SpongeBob is filling up full of failures here. And you can see there's Dustborn, there's the Awakening game, the Unknown 9 Awakening. You remember that? Barely anybody remembers that. That killed a studio. It was so bad. You have Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is in the process of killing an entire corporation. You got Horizon Zero Dawn, the Lego game that next to nobody cared about. And then good old Concord with its cast of characters that look more like vomit and melted plastic figurines from your childhood than they do video game characters. And of course, again, the racist stuff that went on with this that contributed this. But I do want to point out that The Guardian, the people that were so up their own backside and upside down about Elon Musk and his contributions, rather, to what you're allowed to say on the internet, free speech or otherwise. Sorry, I have a throat thing. Either way, this right here, you have The Guardian saying, well, fellas, it's beautiful to look at, but it ain't got much else. And that's the truth. When you take a look at these Sweet Baby Inc. games, they focus on the most surface level interpretation of the time period, and they really drill in to the politics they want to insert into that game. It has nothing to do with the game itself and everything to do with turning that game into a vehicle for a political agenda. And that's what South of Midnight ends up failing all over the place over, is because the story itself has next to nothing to do with the gameplay. The gameplay is pretty much divorced from the story because the story revolves around pushing an agenda. You can't have a story with that much modern politics oozing out of it and have the gameplay do anything other than what Dustborn was doing, where you go around trying to get people to scream and yell at each other and fight and manipulate them and these sorts of things. This isn't much better because you're going around conquering past traumas, and it's another thing to call like these Souls-like monsters that are all like twisted H.P. Lovecraft looking things. So, but as this explains right here, is that you're not going to get a lot out of this game. The price point reflects that. Now, again, I don't want expensive games, but this is a pretty low price game. Don't get me wrong. And you go out there, you can enjoy some pretty vistas, some neat level design. Don't get me wrong, these bayous look great. You can have a talking catfish regale you with the history of this particular bayou. However, that's not really much else to offer to this, really. That's about it. That's the end of it. Um, the gameplay, as they say here, is pretty tight on it, but what they get into here at the end of it, here it is what you're left with is a game whose best ideas are all optics. The fairy tale Southern style plays out like a modern young adult take on on Toni Morrison's fiction while summoning some of the whimsical, damaged beauty of 2012 Beasts of the Southern Wild. The soundtrack is rambunctious, is a rambunctious collage of howling blues and twanging folk and lilting jazz. Compulsion Games bottled much of Southern Magic during, they bottled it up rather, much of Southern Magic during the making of this seemingly risky gambit for Microsoft, yet failed to take risks where it really mattered. This unique setting deserved more. And thus is the entirety of what SBI ends up bringing to these brands. Ask yourself, is there a Sweet Baby Inc. game that when you tear away all their politics, did it actually interest you before they got interjected into this? This does have an interesting premise. However, the politics end up ruining it because the politics become the focus, not the game. You'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments below, guys. But as always,